Hello everyone. We are now ready to invite Dr. Shiu Man Fai, who is just retired from the Royal Free Hospital in London. He is what's the right word to explain? He's not just a doctor. He actually has a very inquiring mind. And he's also an inventor. And that's why Georgetown Institute of Open and Advanced Studies is very lucky to welcome Dr. Shiu Man Fai to become a member of its International Advisory Board. Now, the reason why I think Dr. Shiu can advise us is he graduated from Guy's Hospital in London, then worked all his way up in the cardiac area. He's a cardiac physician, consultant in Birmingham, Coventry, and also lectured to undergraduate and postgraduate doctors in the cardiac area. He was a pioneer in the introduction of angioplasty and also an inventor. He actually invented a stent device, but I will let him to explain the more technical issues. Why we feel that we're very honored to bring him in is that he brings the whole range of medical experience from not just inventing and working on actual cases, but how to manage special units in medicine. So Dr. Shiu, welcome. And we would like you to share with us, if you can, your views on, particularly in medical education, but specifically on what it means to move from a specialist field to a general perspective, how different things associate with education, to apply to your application in medicine.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your generous opening introductory remarks. I want to thank Wawasan University for inviting me to join this panel. It's a very daunting task because I know there are plenty of challenges ahead. And I'm very privileged to not only participate but to meet other board members with really wonderful experiences, and as you say, we all come from very varied backgrounds, and it seems that all the other members have really straddled multiple disciplines as well, which is very important. In a way, I'm probably the narrowest because I've spent all my life as a clinician, but I think most people know, especially in the British Health Service, all clinicians and consultants particularly are teachers. We teach undergraduates and we teach postgraduate. And I was also unusual in the way I moved around the country more than most other people. From London, where I graduated, did my postgraduate training, and then to Birmingham, the Midlands, and then to Coventry, where it so happened that Warwick University was starting first year as a medical school, jointly with Leicester. And I had the experience of seeing the challenges of a start-up medical school. It probably was the last medical school to be started in the UK. And then also unusual in that Warwick U specializes in taking on what they call mature students, which of course open universities in a way are almost geared to more mature students. And you see a different perspective when you see fresh students from high school and then the mature students who may have had a few years out in the sort of careers and then come back wanting to have further education. So that's quite an interesting perspective. As to the change from clinical practice to, firstly, to invention, that was really serendipity. I mean, it so happened that I was trying to solve certain problems of balloon angioplasty when arteries are badly blocked. And I had my eureka moment when I was just playing around with things in my own kitchen, trying to go through a simulated blocked artery with some cheese and some straws, and then find if I use the Archimedes screw principle coupled to a sharp cylinder, and I could go through blockages. But it's all right, as I say, invention is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. It took good 10 years after that to get it into actual market and clinical use. And that was a very long journey.
Well, you see, I think you bring in very unique perspective, because it's not just about being a specialist in one subject. It's actually how do you apply it in real life, and then, as you say, having a eureka moment, and then wake up and says, I can actually invent something. And not many people do that. And so that's a very important inspiration to young students at Wawasan Open University and elsewhere. That if one is a little bit more creative, just ask the right questions, you can think through this. Now, share with us how difficult it was for you to get the funding, to get convince the people how to do the tests, what are the reactions of different academia to these new ideas, and particularly how it may be important for you to show your own experience and where you learned this special technique.
I think that's what life's about. I think that's what university is about. I think it is passing the wisdom that really life is about taking on challenges, learning from your mistakes, and follow your interests. I think these would be my key points, really. Education isn't about going to university, come out, expect to be fully qualified and stop taking on ideas there. It could be that I am somebody that the more you challenge me, the more I fight back. And apart from the invention side, British society was a tough time back in the 70s and 80s. It may be even tougher now, but it's gone soft a bit. and the changes are really remarkable over the last few years. The challenges to universities are certainly coming wave after wave, and I don't think a lot of institutions are prepared for that. I mean, that's what we're here to discuss, yet another challenge about the impact of digital age. I mean, coming back to British universities and challenges, I've seen it all. I've seen the amazing sort of hope that maybe turning the polytechnics into universities will open doors for those who are sort of vocational training, which for a long time was looked on as a kind of second class. The British establishment sort of looked at the classical scholars as the way to achieve high status. It's almost like an ancient Chinese system where the only way to become a Mandarin is to study the old books. Now, that may have worked for 2,000 years, but it certainly won't work now. Are the British universities stuck in a similar mindset? I think that's quite an important parallel to draw. So Harry Wilson was the one to say, well, let's break that and make all the polytechnics into universities. But my goodness, it took 2 generations to realize that in fact there's a problem there too. It's all very well to suddenly open up the gate to secondary education. In the meantime, the population is changing. And I think that's what we're here talking about. The universities may have ideas, governments may have ideas, but the population, the young people coming through, may have completely different ideas about what they want, and we have to listen to what they want. And that's what I've learned about the NHS as well. The NHS kept on being criticized and said, you're not changing, you're not changing. In fact, the NHS is changing, but people are changing faster. People's expectation for healthcare is changing fast. So the NHS has that, at that like mad. For a long time, I wasn't even involved in NHS management. But until I actually saw that there's a problem there. Right? If I don't participate, I becomes a problem.
That's right. That's wonderful. Because, you touched on a very important issue. Institutions are there to help people, help society. But if society changes and institutions don't change, then the institutions become the barrier to change itself, which is very, very critical. But what is more important is that people like yourself become aware of the need to respond. Now let's come back to the technology issue. As you know, the big problem today is that the young people are more technically savvy, technology savvy than their teachers, right? This is very obvious in many schools where the kids are very fast with their iPads, and the teachers, some of them may not even are on the iPad age. Now, iPads are now changing the medical profession, because at the emergency level, you just take an iPad, take a photograph of what's going on, and immediately shoot this to the specialist and say, give me a recommendation what I should do with this, or access the actual health records, or access the best artificial intelligence advice. How do you see this in the medical profession? Education in general.
It's a huge subject. Firstly, on the plus side, right? Especially in cardiology, we are really right up in the front. In fact, my invention was helped by really advanced engineering, which is amazing. The little cutter is coated with diamond, what they call liquid diamond. They cut really sharply without causing any harm. So it's amazing. I mean, if we all talk about technical advances in medicine, that's something else. But I would not exaggerate too much about the fact that the youngsters coming through are technically minded. They love the gadgets. They use the gadgets. They now have a completely different way of socializing through social media. Unfortunately, evidence shows that they may be technically using these gadgets. They may not love technology so much as to want a career in it. And that's why this argument about STEM, right? Science, technology, and engineering. They are not going into these specialties. And that's a big question. Why are they not going into it? If they love technology so much, why aren't they in it? No, they're just using technology for their aspirations. So we have to somehow understand. I don't know about changing them. First, we need to understand them. Why? Because all the evidence shows that something else is making them, steering them away. Now, it could be that they were never that interested. I don't know. I'm not sure about that, because different countries seem to be behaving differently. In Europe, there are lots of countries where they really respect and reward technical staff. And I see that big contrast in Britain. They really seem to not have the same sort of mindset. I don't know about the Far East. I don't know well enough. Maybe other sort of speakers with more experience about this part of the world can say. Certainly from some of the papers you circulated before this meeting about the school leavers, they again seems to be very keen to go into university, but they are not necessarily choosing the ones that will actually be steering them into useful employment, and that is a real problem.
Yeah, but you see, I had a tremendous eureka moment for myself when the baby of a young colleague of mine was shown a photograph, an actual photograph. And what she did was this. She actually was doing the photograph. She thought the photograph the baby for the photograph was an iPad, okay, which goes to show that the young know how to use technology without understanding how the technology works. Now, maybe we now need to, in a sense, train or incentivize the young to try and learn this technology so that they can apply it better for their lives. Because the biggest danger is to have this, what I call techno-optimism, that technology will solve everything, but technology is not solve everything. In some cases, there are a lot of problems.
I absolutely agree. That's what I was referring to. Using technology is one thing, right? But becoming interested in how to then use technology, using the technology for what purpose? If you're using it for entertainment, okay, that's an entertainment industry. But obviously China is becoming very successful in using technology to better people's lives. I mean, that's not just the entertainment side, but for utility side as well. And from the manufacturing side, there's no question about it. To make a country wealthier, you really need to move into the industry side. And I think that's the problem. Now, of course, we can be too negative about this. The experts still disagree as to whether exposing toddlers or young people too much into technology is good or bad. The downside first is that it could be, and I think the evidence shows, that it seems to shorten the attention span. Right? Now, I worry about that because I'm one who like deep thinking. And I think deep thinking is what takes you into areas that will absorb you into your subject, and then that's when you find your eureka moment, because inventions don't just appear. It appears because you are thinking hard about solving problems. On the other hand, to be optimistic about technology, a lot of neuroscientists say, hang on a second, they will shape the brain in such a way that in the world that they are coming to, it may well be that that's how it will help them look at new technology better. So I don't think it's necessarily the university's job to worry about that. I think our job is to help steer them towards what really society or the country wants. There's no question about that. You have to steer a little bit, guide them that way.
Yes, I think the society's approach to education is very important. So, for example, you were asking the same question. Switzerland, Finland, Norway are very high in creativity, but creativity in technology, right? I mean, and that's what they produce more inventors and very high values scientists, far better than even very large countries. So what you're basically saying is we need to keep an open mind to universities, to education. We need to now help university think through their way in a very digitally disrupted age.
Absolutely true. I think each university will find its own role. It's very important. Right? You can't be all alike, and you have to define your role and find a niche that will really satisfy the demand of your community.
Very good. Thank you very much, Dr. Shiu. We look forward to very fruitful engagement in the International Advisory Board.
I'm looking forward to it too.
Thank you.